Question 1 comes from @OkieSooner94 on Twitter, who asks, does Teddy think we will still win a natty within the next 2 years? He said within 3 years last year, because I'm here for it. Let's go. Ted?
Is that Dusty? Is Okie Sooner 94? Is that Dusty?
It may be Dusty's burner, but it was not Dusty.
Okay.
This Twitter account does not identify as Dusty Dvorak.
Okay. Oh, yeah. Well, here's the thing. I'm not gonna back off of this statement, right? I'm not gonna do that. It would have helped had we stayed in the Big 12 for the entire duration of the grant of rights deal. Will be our first year in the SEC, which is going to make things incredibly difficult. But we'll be battle tested by the end of that season. So there's that we will have going for us. I'll tell you what, I'm hawing around. I think that if recruiting goes well again with this class that we're going to sign, and I wouldn't expect many of these guys, if any, to necessarily be factoring in that season, but a narrative is important, and I think that's important for the transfer portal, which if we get the right couple of moves in the transfer portal and Jackson Arnold is what I think he's going to be, I think we can be competitive in the SEC. Now, does that mean national championship? I don't know. But if you're competitive in the SEC, you can be competitive to win a national championship.
I don't think OU has a national championship roster.
They do not.
They do not.
Right now.
And now there's a lot for me when I see this question. There's a lot to unpack here. The move to the SEC bumping up. Yeah, that was something you and I discussed, right? It would not have been the worst thing in the world for Brent Venables to have another year to build the roster while still being in the Big 12, being able to use the SEC move as a recruiting tool, but not having to play an SEC schedule. That timeline has changed. But I don't think, even though I think Oklahoma's going to have a really good season in 2023. I think this program's going to bounce back in a big way. I don't think they have the guys on this roster that can go to a 14 playoff and beat a Georgia and a Bama back-to-back. I just don't think that roster is there yet. But I am extremely excited about how this thing feels like it is building under Venables. So your prediction of them winning a natty in the first 3 years, I don't think it's coming true, man. And I think, and that's not, I don't think we're bashing the program or Venables or anybody saying that. Like, it's more about what Georgia and Bama have built. Like, it's more of a compliment than them than I'm saying, like, hey, OU's just, they're not even close. Like that, I think it's just the bar is ridiculously high when you look at a couple of these programs and the amount of talent they've been able to stack and the quality of coaching staffs that are coaching that talent.
No doubt. There's no doubt about it. We do not have the roster right now. You would have to have a perfect transfer portal haul, and you would have to have like fantastic development from within. Because just think about this part of it. Like Walter Rouse, left tackle, he's going to be a one and done guy. He's going to be gone. Why am I drawing a blank? Right tackle.
Tyler Guyton.
If Guyton has the season that a lot of people think that he could be a one and done guy. Rame is going to be gone. Like, you're probably going to be replacing 3, maybe 4 guys, depending on what your starting lineup looks like this year. You might be replacing 4 offensive linemen. That's not exactly what you want headed into the first year of the SEC. I think defensively, depending on we'll learn some this year about a couple of guys, but I think year 3 defensively is going to be really good. We'll learn more whenever we see this year. Like if year 2 goes according to plan with where I hope it is, I think year 3 is going to be a year that they really accelerate defensively. But I mean, as it sits right now, it would take something incredibly special for that to happen.
Yeah, it would take a TCU like season, right? And then if you get to the championship game, then hey, who knows what'll happen? Hopefully it goes better than what we just saw happen to TCU against Georgia. But when you look at the situation now, I'm not sure. Does OU have a better chance to win the national title in 2023 or 2024? Because let's not forget, the playoff expands in 24. So not only are you going into the SEC.
Oh, well, you're okay. Yeah. Yes.
So sorry. It's, if you're going to get it, it feels like 23's got to be the year.
Yeah.
And coming off the 6 and 7 season, all the new pieces, a lot of question marks heading into the season. You know, who are going to be the playmakers at wide receiver? How's the running back room going to shake out? Can Dylan Gabriel take a step? And that's just the offense. The defense was, that was the most disappointing part of the team in 2022. So with the move to the SEC in 2024, plus the expanded playoff to where you got to win another game if you don't get a bye, that's a lot to ask for.
Yeah. Well, maybe this is famous last words, and I'll feel stupid for saying this, but if you could ever dream, like 5 years ago, if I would have handed you the schedule for 2023 and I told you this is what our schedule is going to be, I'd be slapped by anyone if I said that we would lose more than one game. And that game would be to Texas, and you shouldn't lose that one. Like, that schedule is as good as you could ever ask for a runway to the playoff. And it ain't close. We've never had anything. Now, it could look different at some point, right? Maybe TCU's a top 5 team again behind Chandler Morris. Like, someone's going to be really good in there. But as you look at it right now, it's like, what else could you ask for?
Yeah. No, the schedule lines up. There's just so many question marks on both sides of the ball. And maybe it happens, right? Maybe it all comes together. Like, would I be shocked if OU makes the college football playoff in 2023? No, I wouldn't. Right? I could see them going 12-1 and winning the Big 12 championship. Right? And if you do that, you're typically going to be in the playoff.
Yeah, I feel like I will be disappointed if they're not playing in a game in early December that's essentially a play-in game. You win, you're in.
Right.
With this schedule, who knows who you play and what could happen in that game? A one-off game, championship game. You just never know. Look at TCU last year. But, I mean, how can you envision it any other way right now?
Right.
And that's even knowing that we went 6 and 7 a year ago.
Yeah. I mean, especially you start thinking about, okay, what are the chances of it happening in 2024 with how that schedule looks?
Yeah.
It may be easier to win a national title in 2024 than to win the SEC.
Yeah.
Because at least in an expanded playoff, like, hey, someone gets knocked off, you get a little bracket luck. All of a sudden you're playing a team that's the lower seed. Like, you know what I mean? Like that,
Yeah.
something weird like that could happen if you get in as one of those last seeds. I don't know, but
Well, and even for this year though, like it was interesting to hear. I don't know. Did you hear Cole Kublik on Plank Show? He was talking about how like the SEC defensive line is just it's not what it was 3, 4, 5 years ago. And no, I don't expect it to stay that way. But for the near term, that I thought that was a really interesting quote coming from him because he knows the line of scrimmage.
yeah. And you think about just you're talking 2023. Alabama's got an interesting quarterback situation. Say what you want about Stetson Bennett. Guy won back-to-back national titles.
Right.
Now I know Carson Beck's supposed to be the most talented guy they've had there in Athens in quite some time. But we haven't seen it on Saturdays.
So
Ohio
was
State.
so is Uyunga Lele there at Clemson, right? It was a can't miss quarterback situation.
Yeah, now he's the quarterback at Oregon State. Or did he?
It's wild.
Is he even the starter? I don't know, but I just don't think with what we've seen from Georgia, right? And just knowing how some of these teams have stacked talent, you know, it feels like the Sooners are playing catch up a little bit.
Yeah, they are.
Now, that doesn't mean something weird can't happen, right?
Yep.
But I'm just guessing you don't feel as good about your prediction as you did this time a year ago.
No. I do not.
6 and 7 will change it, man.
I do not. I knew we had a development problem at OU, right?
We talked about it a lot.
Talked about it a lot, but the harsh reality, the underbelly of where we were was ultimately, and this is what I said after the season, like you'll never hear me say that like we shouldn't have done better, we shouldn't have done this, but after the fact, whenever it's already done and I already know the result, I still believe I'm glad it happened.
Yeah. I think ultimately our hope is that the pain that was 2022 will end up being worth it in the long run. That's my hope, man.
Yeah.
National champs 2025 or 2026. I think OU's best chance in the near future, right? Because that means that 2023 recruiting class will have some years on it. Jackson Arnold will be, if you look at 2025 in his third year, 2026 in his fourth year. Veteran QB, some homegrown young talent. Maybe you've plugged some holes with the transfer portal or, you know, elevated some positions with the transfer portal. That if we're talking realistic, that's how I kind of see it. If you're talking about OU playing for a national title, especially in an expanded playoff.
No, it's too long. You have to capture momentum early. Like for Jackson Arnold. Next year, maybe the year after, but that's the first year in the SEC. Like you have to capture something quick. And it's not necessarily that you have the element of surprise. It's just the player feels somewhat indestructible, can't make any mistakes. We're red hot. You just have to take advantage that way you have it. That's what I believe. I think the longer it goes on, the more difficult it is to continue to sell the future. And I mean, timing wise, you're exactly right.
I was going to say
timing.
2025 is only going to be their second year in the SEC.
Well, you said 26.
Well, I went back and forth 25,
Oh, okay.
26. You know, I was talking through it, Ted. Damn
Okay.
it.
Okay. Well,
I think 26 is probably more likely though.
I feel like I mean, even Georgia, you know, what Stetson won it his first year as a starter, right? Or
I
did
don't know. That
no?
guy's like
I
26 years
know,
old. Who
I
knows?
know. It's hard. I don't. I feel like you need. I think you need the ramp, like quick. Not necessarily like this year, but like this year, next year would perfectly like catch the ramp up, in my opinion. It's
I
hard once you're established, man. It's difficult.
I hope you're right. I'm
Yeah.
with you, man. I'm with you. It seems it seems that'd be asking a lot. A first year starter at quarterback going into a new conference and having that type of impact in that type of season. It'd be awesome. I hope it happens.
I mean, think about it. Um, let's see. Saban, how long before he won a championship? He won a championship at LSU after like 2 years, right?
Yeah.
And then at Alabama, I think it was what he started in 07 and they win in 09. No.
Yeah, because that's the game. That's the year Colt McCoy got hurt. Yeah, that was my redshirt year.
Kirby Smart won it quick. Now, Dabo didn't win it quick, but they had a bit more of a ramp up. I don't know. I just feel like it has to happen like it typically happens like fast. You have to capture the early excitement, early momentum, the fan base, like the whole you got to get the whole thing on the ramp up. Like cuz once you kind of stagnate there and you plateau a little bit, which I mean you never really want to plateau, but it's just kind of a natural thing. I don't know, man.
I love your optimism. I love it. All right, let's get to the next question. Right. I'm sure some people are going to really enjoy you and I go back and forth. They're like, what are these guys talking about? We're just coming up with hypothetical scenarios for 2025.